It's a pleasure to be here today, and thank you so much for having me. So you just saw the video on Align Technology, and my team builds a lot of the software that doctors use to move the teeth, to show the treatment plans for Invisalign, to when a patient is in treatment, to actually monitor that patient's treatment through AI and know if the patient is tracking. My teams are globally distributed. We have presence in the US, in Brazil, India, China, Europe, as well as here in Yerevan. It's my first time visiting Armenia, and it was such a pleasure to meet all of the team here in Yerevan. And I can truly say the people are warm, full of energy, and very, very passionate about their country and their community. So today, I thought I'd walk you through my journey in technology. Some of my lessons learned, and how I think that it's extremely important to build a network of mentors, sponsors, and then pay it forward when you can. So my journey in technology starts in 1989, when I had graduated from high school in Bombay, in India. Coming from a family of highly educated doctors and engineers, there were only two choices in your higher career. You could either be a doctor or you could be an engineer. Unfortunately, there wasn't an opportunity for me to explore any other field. Now, my sister, she's 5 years older than me, and she's a doctor. And I saw her study so hard in medical school that I knew one thing for sure. I didn't want to take up a profession that required me to work so hard. And so I decided to take engineering. And in those days, your scores dictated what field of engineering you got into. And my scores got me into the Bombay University's electrical engineering school. So I showed up the first day of school, and I realized that I was one of 7 girls in a class of 80 students. When you looked at the mechanical engineering class, there were 6 girls in a class of 80. And when you looked at civil engineering, there was 5 in a class of 80. So there was less than 20 of us girls in a class of 240 freshmen entering the school that year. I didn't know how to react to that. I was shocked. It was very unlike what I had experienced in high school, where we were almost the same number of girls and boys. We were always the center of attention, both good and bad. And I didn't quite know what to make of it. It made me very uncomfortable. I even thought about dropping out of engineering and perhaps going and taking admission in medical school. But I knew that I couldn't do that. I needed to wait for 1 year till the next admissions process. And so I decided to dig my heels in and see where the year took me. And I can tell you, I am so thankful for staying back. Over that year, I made some of my closest friends. I learned to embrace the fact that we were the center of attention, and I was okay with it, and I just learned to be who I was and do what I wanted to. I never really fell completely in love with electrical engineering. But in my last year of school, we had the opportunity to do a project that was in a related field. And we found ourselves a mentor who wanted us to build a computer program. He wanted us electrical engineers to be able to visually pick up transistors and capacitors and create a circuit. So we decided to use C. C was the programming language that was picking up then, and we had to teach ourselves C because we'd never had any experience in learning programming languages. I don't know if we actually did it right, because the day it was time to demonstrate our program, we reached very excitedly to our mentor's office, loaded the program on his PC, and when we ran it, we managed to erase his entire hard disk. I still don't know what we wrote that could cause that to happen, but needless to say, our mentor was not happy. He was very upset. He asked us to leave the same day, and we weren't quite sure if he was going to sign off on our project report, which of course we needed to graduate. But I think once he calmed down, he realized it was important for us to move on, and he did sign it, and for that, we're thankful even to this day. But I decided not to let that failure stop me. I think I liked computer programming enough to go to USC and take my master's in computer engineering. So it was 1993. The internet was on fire. Everyone was trying to figure out, how do you build products to actually work on the internet? How do you make money off of the internet? And my professor at USC, she was doing research on a bunch of internet protocols, figuring out how you could interoperate between different computers, between different systems. And I worked with her over the course of my master's, working through all of these internet protocols. When it was time for me to graduate, I found a job at Intel in their internet technology labs, where we were building software for video conferencing. Again, how do you send video and audio over the internet from one PC to another PC to another hardware? I spent a year and a half at Intel and then moved over to Sun Microsystems because I wanted to move to the San Francisco Bay Area. I hope most of you have heard of Java, but I became part of Sun Microsystems and specifically within them, the JavaSoft group. So Java was disrupting the world, and that's where I really, really fell in love with computer science and software engineering. Prior to Java, you had to write a program, you had to compile it, and you had to compile it once for every hardware and for every operating system that you wanted to run your program on. With Java, you no longer needed to do that. You could write once, and you could run your program anywhere, on any hardware, on any operating system. It was fascinating to me that something like this could be built, and I think that was the true start of my love affair with computer science and software engineering. So after a few years in internet systems programming, I decided I wanted to do consulting. I felt the need to work with different customers, different clients, and in different industries. And so I found myself moving across the country to Chicago with a really small startup that was starting to work with companies that needed to integrate all of their systems together. E-commerce was just picking up, and lots of companies were taking in orders through e-commerce. But in order to fulfill those orders, you had to work with mainframes and other more legacy systems in the back end. And my company built the technologies, we did the work to figure out how to do that. I worked with supply chain companies, with banks, with healthcare and medical devices companies, and with paper manufacturing companies. I traveled everywhere to clients. I spent 3, 6, 8 months with them, working on their programs. And the breadth of experience I got, and the number of people that I met, each challenge being different, each solution being different, was a tremendous experience for me. And then in 2006, I had my son. And I decided that I didn't want to divide my time between work and between spending time with him. And so I made a decision to take about a year and a half off, and probably the best time of my life, of course, barring all the sleepless nights that I had with him. So in 2007, it was time for me to go back to work. I had just about, had enough time with him in 1.5 years. And I decided I wanted to switch and work for a company where I could be there for a long time. Being in consulting, you don't often see the results of your work. I was there for 3 months, for 6 months, and I couldn't quite tell, had what I built, was it going to be around for a while? Did it last for time? If not, what could I have done differently? And I decided to be part of a company where I could see the impacts of my work over long periods of time. So I found this company that was starting to disrupt the world of dentistry. I actually didn't know about Align at all. And when I realized that they were building a product where you could straighten your teeth and you didn't need to put children and adults in wires and brackets and have metal in your mouth, I was once again fascinated at what technology can achieve. So I joined them as a solution architect in 2007, and over the next 10 years, I worked on fascinating programs on the IT side, helping the business grow from a few $100 million in revenue to $1 billion in revenue. The 10 years gave me a huge amount of experience. I learned a lot. And then at the end of the 10 years, I realized that I was getting burnt out. My son was just entering middle school. I missed a lot of his school events. I didn't always know the other mums and dads at school. And I felt like I wasn't doing justice to home or to my work. I was growing at work too, I was getting more responsibility, I wasn't able to do justice. So despite many people telling me that this was not the right decision for me, that I was at a trajectory in my career that I shouldn't take a break, I decided to listen to my gut, and I took a break. So for 2 years, I absolutely didn't work in the professional area at all, but instead I worked with girls through an organization called Girls Who Code. I realized how important it is then to have girls exposed to technology when they're young, when they're in elementary school, when they're in middle school, because there's something about girls where we feel the need to know everything, where we feel the need to be perfect before we take on the next opportunity. And I can tell you, when you're in elementary school, you really don't have any fear. And that's the time we want to get the girls into technology. But then elementary school girls are also hard to focus with. I mean, they're middle school girls, they're talking about who's dating who, they're talking about what's the next music star and where's the concert show. And it wasn't always easy for me as a teacher to get their attention. So what I did was, we had a web design class, and I told them, pick your topic of passion and design a website for it. And it was amazing. It was through their passion that they decided they had to learn HTML and web programming in order to showcase all the things that they wanted to about their passion. So we had a website built on environment. We had a website built on music. We had a website built on social justice. And the day the girls had to present, it was truly rewarding for me to see how they had started from sort of not sure why they were in this class to really appreciating what technology could do for the world. I also worked at Google for a little bit. So in the last year of my break, I decided to go part-time. I'll talk a little bit later about how it wasn't easy for me to go back after even a break that I thought was short of 2 years. But I worked at Google Cloud, a tremendous experience. And then in 2020, I had the opportunity to go back to Align, but this time work on the software side of the world, on the product. And it was an opportunity I couldn't pass. And I can tell you that in 3 years, I've fallen in love with the product itself all over again, and with the teams that deliver all the changes that allow doctors to give their patients a beautiful, healthy smile. So just a little bit about my learnings, and I'm hoping that you can take some of this away for your journey as well. For me, going from internet programming to consulting to then IT and then to software engineering for a product gave me the breadth that I wanted to in the technology field. And so I think if you're exploring different roles, don't be shy to take different types of roles in different industries, across different clients. The breadth really does help round you up. Burnout is real. It happened to me. It can happen to any of you. And how you deal with it can be different. For me, it meant taking a complete break and walking away from work. But for others, it could mean that you just take vacations when you need to, you work part-time, you find opportunities to recharge. But it is extremely important to recharge, and you cannot ignore burnout. Confidence does not need perfection. I think I mentioned this with the Girls Who Code, but this was my learning even for myself. There have been, in the early parts of my career, times when I have said no to taking roles because I thought, maybe I didn't know enough about the topic. Maybe I didn't know enough about the subject. And would I be good at it? Would I do well? And I can tell you that for a human, for a person to grow, you have to step outside your comfort zone. There is no other way to expand your mind and expand your brain. And you have to believe in yourself. Believe in the foundation that you have and know that there will be people to help you. Know that you will help yourself. But don't pass up on opportunities that come your way because you're not confident of the topic. And lastly, my next slide is going to focus on mentors. But mentors and sponsors shaped my entire technology journey. I couldn't have done what I did without their support. Mentors are folks who guide you. They know you. They sometimes know you better than you know yourself. And they're people that you can reach out to share ideas, to ask what you should do. And then sponsors are people that actually create opportunities for you at work. And you need both of these in your network. And you need to seek, create, and curate these relationships because these are the people that are going to help you going forward. And then when you get to a stage where you can help others, for me, it's extremely important to pay it forward. So how did mentors shape my technology journey? When I finished USC and I was about to graduate, I did not really know how to find a job. I knew I loved my coursework, and I knew I loved working with my professor, but I didn't really know how I was going to go about getting a job. So I reached out to her, and I asked her, I said, I love what I'm doing at school, but how do I go finding a job? And she said, well, I am working with I'm working with a few companies that were doing this research on the internet protocols. I can refer you. And she did, and that's how I got my job at Intel. And when I wanted to move back to the San Francisco Bay Area, she was the one who referred me to JavaSoft. So it's important that you seek out your professors, people that you work with, to see what opportunities you can get. When I joined Align in 2007, I joined as an individual contributor, and I had an opportunity to become a manager and manage a team. But I wasn't confident. I said, I don't think I can do it. I've never done this in my life. So I said no. And my manager at that point came to me and she said, I think you can do it. And I said, no, I'm fine. I'm good where I am. And then the next week she came to me and she said, I will ask you one last time because I think you can do it, but if you don't take this opportunity, I will give it to someone else. Maybe it was that ultimatum that forced me to take this opportunity, and I can tell you that I've never looked back. I absolutely love leading teams. I love finding the one thing that someone is passionate about, giving it to them if I can, and then building high-performing teams in that way. Taking risks and influencing, that's what work is about. That's how you push your envelope. How do you know if you're doing the right thing? Whose experience do you rely on? And that's where mentors come in. There are people that have experienced in different ways. You can rely on them. They know you, and you can ask them what you should do. You can ask them what would they do if they were in your place. When it was time for me to get back to work, it wasn't easy. I had only taken 2 years off, which I didn't think was that big of a break. And when I interviewed, it didn't seem like people had a problem with the fact that I had taken 2 years off. Yet, opportunities that I thought I was well qualified for, I wasn't getting. And it was then that I once again reached out to my mentors, to my network, to my sponsors, and said, hey, I'm ready to come back to work part-time, but I'm having a hard time finding something. It was through one of my mentors that I found my opportunity at Google Cloud. And when it was time to come back to Align again in 2017, it was through my ex-manager who reached out to me and said, there is an opportunity to lead the software team. And that's what happens, right? So it's when you have mentors, when you have a network of people that you can rely on, sponsors, extremely important to seek that out. And now as I step into a place where I can lead, I find ways, however small, to pay this forward, to mentor folks in my team, to mentor folks outside my team, and even find opportunities outside of Align to mentor in whichever way I can. So if there's any takeaway for you, it's to build your network, to build those relationships, and to let them influence your journey. And with that, I thank you so much for letting me share my journey with you. Hopefully, a little of what I said resonates with you, and you can take back some of this to shape your own journey. Thank you so much.